Dr. Kathy LaFortune, and I am a forensic psychologist. Anytime you're curious about something, you follow that path till you get an answer, until you find an answer that you really can live with or understand, and it helps you understand more about the world. I remember being in the end of third grade a long, long time ago, and our teacher said to us, "I'm going to teach you about long division." And I was so excited about that. I don't know why, I just was. I thought, this is really interesting. But it was hard. It was really hard at first. You know, after Mrs. Cagle described long division, I was like, okay, well maybe I can do this. And so I remember being with my classmates in the room, and we were working on these problems, and then suddenly it clicked. And all I can tell you as aspiring young women who may go into a STEM career is that that's the best part about being in science and math, is that time that it clicks. Because up until that time, you struggle and you think, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this math problem. I can't understand science. It's too hard. It takes too long to learn. And if you just keep at it and at it and at it, and after all those hours of work, suddenly the light goes on, and the feeling that you'll have is amazing, because you've learned something about the world. You've learned how to negotiate the world, how to make the world a better place using those skills. And so, you know, from that third grade and that one little experience, it's just kind of a thought I had that I'd like to share with you today about how difficult it is, but how rewarding it is at the same time. Math and science, they're wonderful, wonderful subjects to learn in school, but they're hard, and they're hard for people that are really smart, and they're hard for all of us. I always had teachers that I looked up to, that I went to, that were helpful, that were collaborative. And that's one thing I would recommend to you all, is that you have someone who can mentor you. And that can be anybody. It can be a relative, it can be a teacher. And I was very fortunate in Tulsa Public Schools, in grade school and junior high, to have wonderful teachers who were always mentors to me. Mrs. Cagle in the third grade, and then Miss Taylor, who was my science teacher, who was fantastic. And after I got out of grade school and got into college, I'd go back and visit her, because she had such a profound influence on my life and making science something that was fun to investigate. And that's another aspect of being in a STEM career, is that you become a detective. No matter what aspect of math and science you get into, you're a detective. You're there to figure out a problem. So by the time I got to junior high, I'd started taking Algebra 1, and it was really boring. And I thought, I've got to do something different. So I went to my teacher and I said, do you think I could go into a different algebra class? And she said, you can try it if you want. And so I did. I went to Algebra 2, and I was really scared about it, because I wasn't sure if I could do it, but the other class was pretty boring. So I thought, well, I'm going to try this. And I had a little notebook, and on this notebook it said, anyone can quit. It takes a champion to keep going. And so when I got into that class, and my teacher was Mrs. McVeigh, I would go in every morning when I could, and she would go over problems with me, because Algebra 2 was hard. It's not easy. But to have somebody like that in my life who was a mentor to me was fantastic. And, you know, I'm sure at 7:30 in the morning when I'd go into her office in her room, she probably had other things to do. But she took the time with me. And I am sure that at your school, wherever you are, there is a mentor, a teacher who's willing to take time with you. My uncle happened to be a mechanical engineer. And back then, when I was growing up, teenage years, women really were not encouraged. But my uncle was one of those people that said, "You can do this." And he never doubted me. And so when I got into math in high school and got into calculus and pre-calc and functions and all those wonderful classes, and I'd be sitting there at my desk thinking, I can't do this calculus problem, I would call my Uncle Frank, and he was always there for me. And in fact, I wanted to show you this because this is something he gave to me when I was in probably 5th grade. And this shows how much technology has changed. This is called a slide rule. And we used to actually use these to do multiplication problems and division. And there are different scales on here. And engineers, this is what they used to use to do calculations. And my uncle had so much faith in what I could do eventually with my career that he started to give me things that were important to him to share with me. And so all I would say to you is, maybe there's someone in your family who you can connect with like I did with my uncle. I don't think I'd be sitting here today with my PhD if I hadn't had him and the teachers who've always been with me to guide me through. And there are people out there like that for you, for all of you. Well, actually, when I was in college, I worked for McDonnell Douglas Corporation, which is an aircraft company. They make planes. The DC-10, that maybe you've heard of, it's an older plane, but they still fly them. I got an opportunity one summer to go work at McDonnell Douglas. I got to walk on the wings of a plane. I got to work on a fuel tank, constructing a fuel tank that would hold a certain amount of fuel for the plane. And those are really important things to people. If you think about the people flying those planes, they need to work right. And that's why you, as a young scientist or major in mechanical engineering, aeronautical engineering, some aspect of science, always go for the stars. Apply to these companies for the summer. Get those summer jobs, because that is going to give you the reality of what it's like to work in a big company doing science. And just take on that task of finding someone that you trust who can introduce you to mathematics and science, because I promise you, once you get into it, it's hard. It's very hard sometimes, but it's definitely worth it, and it's doable. You have to have confidence that no one can tell you you can't do it, or that you won't be able to figure out the answer, because you can. You're needed in this field to go from the slide rule to a calculator on your cell phone. This is what we do. And I promise you that if you get into this field, you will absolutely love it, and it will stay with you forever. And one of the reasons it stays with you is because you learn how to do what we call critical thinking. And critical thinking is an aspect of our thinking that allows us to make good decisions in any field that we enter into, whether it's psychology, whether it's social work, whether it's math, science, medicine, law. Critical thinking is what will allow you to be successful in life. And when you get established and you're working for a company, you're going to look back and say, all those hundreds of hours that I spent in the library doing math problems, doing science labs, doing science projects on analog braking systems, and all these other wonderful things you're going to get to do, you're going to look back and say, it was worth it, because I am now an engineer. I am now a mathematician. I am now a researcher, or I am now a scientist.
phone. My phone was in my last job. Is that I was out in the field, um, and it was an upstream company, so they go out there and actually hydraulically frack the ground, and so we do that by stages. And so I was actually the engineer there at the time, and so we have a lot of crewmen that work with me and under me, and one of the foremen decided that, I guess for whatever, I didn't know the guy or anything like that. He decided that sand bins were in the back because in hydraulic fracturing they mix sand, chemicals, and water to push into the ground to propagate the cracks. So what happened was is that you put on the back of the sand bins that you put like a trigonometry equation, and he said. Then I said, "What is this?" I looked and I said, because I was back there, and then I said, "Well, back there, seeing it." I guess he see me. They have an intercom where we're all hooked up to, and he's like, black people can't do advanced math," and so I was like, "What?" So I mean, it didn't hurt me or anything like that. To me, it was more comical. That's kind of what I hate to say expect, but it's kind of what you expect, got to feel, So I was like, instead of overreacting, I just went to go talk to the guy. I'm like, hey man, what compelled you to say something like that? I'm like, I've never said anything to you, or I mean, you mean anything like that? I said, what kind of propelled you to say that? And he was like, I was just playing, I wasn't completely serious or anything. Don't tell HR. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to tell HR, man. Yeah, but it kind of seems like maybe you're insecure, you know, about what I'm doing. Um, and he's just like, well, maybe that it was somebody else told HR on him. So, you know, he did. I don't know what happened to him. I think he went to work for another group within the company. Um, that's just one example. I mean, there was an example um, even here, where I went out into the field one time, and I'm not gonna say the guy's name or anything like that, but I went out there, and one guy said, "Oh wow, yeah, black guy here as your boss. What you gonna do now?" I'm like, looking like to say that in front of me, in front of everybody. I was just like, this was here, and this was pretty recent when this happened. So I was like, wow. So I didn't. I talked to him. I said, it's really not that serious. I don't know why you gotta say that and stuff like that. No, I'm sorry. I just couldn't help myself. I'm like, okay. So I go on forever in that area. So yeah, but those my mom always told me that for me in my position, who I am, you know, being a young African American male, that I'm have to work twice as hard and make no mistakes to make it. So I'm well aware of that, and so I embrace it. I embrace being the villain. So it's fun. I enjoy it, and kind of propels me to do better. If I or people, minorities, underrepresented minorities, helped on the stuff, I would be mad all the time, and it would kind of discourage me from going about what I need to do. So I know it's there, and I'm not saying I'm disavowing it, but what I'm saying is that I deal with it differently. It was a saying by Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of Britain. He said it's a saying that he had said, never, 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 never give up. And I failed classes so many times. I've been broke so many times. Lived at my parents' house, and it was different for me because my mom had a business, a daycare business, and so she would have younger ladies around my age that were going to school around that time that would work for my mom, and they gave me the blues because I was living with my mom at home, broke, in school. And it was good for me. I didn't know at the time, but it was great for me because that helped really push me, put me in the overdrive on going to school. So I would tell kids is that, regardless of the situation you was born in, you know, you like the game of poker, it's how you play your hand, right? So, you might be given a bad hand, but that hand might be somebody else's hand, depending on how you play it. So that's what I would say. Just never give up. Just keep striving. Keep fighting.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Mcclellan, and I work at Fox 23 here in Tulsa. I am originally from Texas, but I did go to the University of Oklahoma, so I'm familiar with the weather that we see here in Oklahoma. I did get my degree in meteorology, and before you ask, yes, it is lots of math and lots of science, but it can be so much fun, especially when you think about that math and science are kind of just games and you have to figure them out in order to get your answer. Now, one of my favorite things about being a meteorologist is not only talking to people and explaining what I do, but it's also keeping people safe. One of the things that meteorologists do, especially on the TV side, is keep everyone at home informed of what is headed their way, whether it's the sunny, hot weather that we see in the middle of summer, whether it's winter weather, or whether it's even the possibility of severe weather like what we typically see this time of year. I actually became interested in meteorology because of hurricanes. My parents are originally from Southeast Texas, and it was really interesting to see that different hurricanes cause different types of damage. I also know that I always liked knowing what was happening with the weather. It impacts nearly everything you do every single day. Like if you can go outside or not, if you need to grab a jacket or not, or if you're just gonna be stuck watching the rain through the window. Now, I did go to OU, and that's because it was actually ranked one of the top in the country. And of course, it's one of the best schools that we have in this part of the country. And it is well known for its research that we have with severe weather in this part of the country, and especially in Oklahoma. While I was there, I worked for the Oklahoma Mesonet, and if you don't know what that is, that's okay, but it is 120 different weather stations across the entire state, including here in eastern Oklahoma. They gather up information on the weather that we see and even some information on agricultural things, including moisture that we have in the ground. Now, fast forwarding all the way through school, after graduation, I did go to southern Oklahoma, moved down there. I worked for a TV station there for a few years, and I worked on the morning show, which means super early hours, but it's also really fun. After working there, I moved here in 2016, and I've been here ever since. Currently, I work as the second meteorologist in the mornings, meaning I get to work between about 2 and 4 a.m. That's, yes, really early. And it does depend on the day, depends on the weather. But the good news is by the time that I'm off work, it's 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the afternoon, and I still get to enjoy my afternoon, still get to enjoy times with friends and even family. A normal work day, you get to work a couple hours before the show, so that's about 2 o'clock in the morning, make a forecast, update the graphics, and then that's the website. And that is all before we even go on air at 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, in order to make a forecast, I do look at lots of different things. I look at what the previous meteorologist did, the information that they gathered. I look at a bunch of computer model data, and I look at climate data, which is about a 30-year average of the weather that we see in this part of the country. And then I develop my own forecast. And that takes a little bit of time. And again, it's a lot of math and science, but we're able to do it. Once we go on the air, this is where things get a little different. Weather is typically about every 10 minutes throughout the morning, and we're updating current temperatures, looking at Fox 23 Doppler radar, and even breaking down what you can expect throughout the day. Now here at Fox 23, we're incredibly lucky. We actually have 2 green screens, and this is how we are actually able to stand in front of the graphics and look at everything. We have TVs on either side, we have a TV in front of us, so we know what we're looking at, and we're able to see what it is that we're pointing to, and we can see everything that you're seeing. So even as I look off to the side, I'm able to see the different things that I'm pointing at. Now, this can be confusing, but again, practice, and it's still a lot of fun. Now, even though this seems like a lot of doing and a lot of information, as long as you're doing something that you're passionate about, like I'm passionate about keeping people informed, passionate about knowing what's going on with the weather, and it has a special place in my heart. That means that you're going to put forth that much effort to do well or to communicate a key idea. And that's what meteorology is for me. I'm one of those people that I want you to know what's going on. I want you to be informed. And it's not just on severe weather days, winter weather days. It's every single day of the year. I want you to know what's going on. I want you to stay safe. So knowing those different things that meteorologists do, it's going to help you understand what we're doing behind the scenes to help keep you and your family safe. Now, as I kind of wrap this up, I do want to stress that even though you may not know what you want to be when you grow up, find a mentor. Start asking questions. You think you want to be an engineer? Awesome. Go find an engineer, talk to them. You think you want to be a meteorologist? Awesome. Reach out to me. I'm willing to answer your questions. Even if it comes out that maybe that's not what you want to do, I will help you find that path and find someone else to talk to of something maybe you're interested in. You can always talk to us and talk to your mentors. If you do want to talk to me, go ahead. Reach out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. My username on all 3 platforms is Megan McClellan WX. It's MEGAN MCCLELLAN WX, and it's just like what you see. Hold on, right here. Just like what you see right here below me. You can reach out. I'm willing to answer your questions, and I look forward to hearing from you.